Sarah, 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 Sarah.
It brings a tear to my eyes. To my eyes.
So Sarah and I were actually just having a conversation in the office, and we thought we would vlog about it because it was a pretty good conversation. So the other night I was actually talking to Lauren, one of our achievers, and we were talking about, she was mentioning that she used to be able to press the bell that she was pressing for 5 reps, and now she can only do it for 2, and that initial feeling of like, man, where did my strength go? Like, I'm so much weaker than I used to be. And so we were kind of just discussing how we've all been there, and it happens to everyone because you change your focuses. So you're not always going to be able to lift the amount of weight that you're able to lift now in 2 months because you're going to change your focus. You're going to focus on something else.
Absolutely. So something that I had actually thought about this morning was the concept of being in shape. So people say that all the time, like, oh man, I got to get back in shape. I got to get in shape. But what does that really mean? Because for some people that means being able to run a marathon. And then for some people that means to be able to lift, 200 pounds. So it's very different. So like for me, I know I spent the summer training for the Ironman, and I was able to do a pull-up with a 24. And yesterday I kind of just was testing it out, and I was able to do it with an 18, and I was like, score, like I haven't lost it, but my goals have now shifted to now a powerlifting meet. So I'm doing more barbell work. So it's just different. We can't compare where we were 3 months ago or even like last month to where we are today.
Yeah, so it's really just about cutting yourself some slack, and the most dangerous thing I think is to compare yourself to your past self, and you start to talk down to yourself like, oh, I'm not strong anymore, I'm weaker than I used to be, and it's just, you're just in a different place than you used to be, but you can probably do things now that you couldn't do then, even though you could lift a certain amount of weight then that you can't lift now. So we're always evolving, we're always changing, and to tell ourselves that we're weaker, that we're not in shape anymore, that we're out of shape now, like, it's not productive. So let's start to talk about like, okay, maybe we can recognize that we'd like to be back to where we were, if that's a specific goal, or we can recognize that we're okay with the fact that we're not there right now because we're focusing on something else. So just having that positive dialogue with yourself as opposed to just saying like, oh man, I'm weak.
Yeah, I think the good thing to remember too is your weights may change, but I think your technique overall gets better.
Right.
So somebody might be doing a press with less weight, but they're doing it so much better, and I'd rather see that kind of improvement, because in the long run that's actually going to take you way farther than if you're just doing a ton of crappy presses. Right. So that's something to remember. It's not always about the weight. It's about the technique along with it.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Cool.
Love it.
Coach's Corner. Peace out.
I mean.
I just got my new camera, the Canon 70D, and I wanted to talk about this in today's vlog because before I actually switched to this new setup, I wanted to talk about my current setup. I've been getting a ton of questions and messages from other coaches and trainers asking what kind of setup I'm using right now and what I'd recommend to them. All right, so my current setup is a Nikon D3200. It's super entry level. It costs about $500. The key here is that I've also attached a Tokina wide-angle zoom lens. And the wide angle is pretty cool and important in that it gives you a much wider perspective on what you're shooting. So if you're facing the camera, you have a much more visually appealing background going on, as opposed to a camera that's just kind of in your face, essentially. It also helps if I'm in the gym and I'm trying to get multiple people in a shot at once. So I actually really like the quality of this setup, especially given the cost. It provides this really good image quality, but there's some logistical and convenience factors that really persuaded me to upgrade to the 70D. The first one being its focusing system. Right now I can't tell if I'm actually in focus. So if I do this shot and then I upload it to my computer and I realize that the whole time I'm not in focus, then I have to actually redo the whole shot. So that's definitely one of the biggest cons of the 3200 setup. I'll give you an example right now. Let's say, for example, I take this Canon lens and I try to focus on it and it's up close. It's got a really difficult time trying to focus on it. It's very fuzzy and not clear. And so that, yeah, it's still not tracking it well. So that's a big con for me right now. And then secondly, the big thing is that I can't really see if I'm actually in the shot or not. If you notice on the 70D, you'll notice that there's a flip screen that flips out. That helps me know if I'm actually in the shot or not. And then not only that, it actually has a touch screen. So I can touch on whichever item I want to focus on, whether that's me or whether that's something in the background. And the third thing is it has better control of settings. Right now, if I were to try to change anything on the Nikon, I would have to go into the dial, switch up some of the settings, and then shoot it accordingly. Whereas the Canon, I can touch the screen and I can adjust the settings right there in real time. So it's a much quicker transition. All right, so having said all that, I'm gonna switch over to the Canon 70D. All right, so now we're on the Canon 70D, and you probably noticed how quickly it latched onto my face without even me trying to figure out if I'm in the shot or if I should try to focus it or not. It all just does that automatically. And now the second biggest thing you probably notice is the actual sound quality. I've actually attached this mic to it, and this is called a Rode VIDEOMIC Pro. And I'll link that in the comment section below. But if you're shooting anywhere outside of a indoor studio while you're directly next to the camera, you're probably gonna want a mic, especially if you're gonna be outside or if you're gonna be shooting inside a noisy gym. Secondly, I also have this tripod attached to it, this bendy tripod, and it's super convenient in terms of you can be anywhere outside or indoors and you can attach this thing to whatever fixture you want to, and it's super convenient to carry around. And then not only that, I can actually have it be in essentially like a selfie mode where I carry the tripod and I can have it out in front of me without trying to hold the camera and have it be this close to my face. So this camera setup I have right now, the Canon 70D, plus the mic I have attached to it, plus the bendy tripod I have, and plus the wide angle lens I've attached to it, it's gonna run you about anywhere from $1,300 to $1,400, which is pretty pricey obviously. So now a good compromise between the Canon 70D and the Nikon D3200 would be what's called the Canon Rebel T5i. And I think they just came out with the T6i semi-recently, but the T5i is just as good. But it's got all the capabilities of the Canon 70D in terms of the flip screen, the focusing, the better setting controls that I was talking about, that the Nikon D3200 doesn't have, but it also does it at a price point that's about $300 to $400 cheaper. So I'd recommend that setup right now. I was actually able to accumulate all of my camera gear over time using credit card points. My Canon, my Nikon, my GoPro, all these accessories were all bought using credit card points, which probably isn't the most optimal way of using the points, but it's something I'm really interested in, so it's a good way to get camera gear for free. But if you don't have any spare money lying around right now to invest in a good camera setup, I would just use your iPhone or use your smartphone and use iMovie. That way you can get practice in front of a camera, you can also get practice editing the shots, all at a very minimal cost, and all the while you can figure out whether or not you want to dive deeper into this. So hopefully this all helped you out, and let me know if you have any other questions.